Very exciting. Look at all of you. Wow. This is very exciting. Thanks for joining me. I'm Rebekah Kee Maya with Awakening the Magnetic Mind and Emotional Freedom in 7 minutes or less. This is so exciting. Thank you so much for coming. There's there's just so much to cover. And so as we go through this, you will see how much is involved, and I could probably make this into a 2-day event. I'm going to introduce to you a whole lot of new concepts and a whole lot of new method. This truly is a revolutionary method, this rapid recoding, the magnetic mind. You are entraining your brain to remove resistance. Ultimately, what we're doing here is removing resistance, which is very exciting. Let's begin. All right. Awakening the magnetic mind. What is that? What are we awakening? We're in a really interesting time, aren't we? We're in a really, really interesting time. A lot of people are awakening, and the magnetic mind is kind of like accessing that part of you that has been dormant. It's been dormant. So we're going to talk about what it means to awaken the magnetic mind and emotional freedom in 7 minutes or less. So if you are a seeker, what are you seeking? Do you know? Are you an empath seeking better boundaries? Who isn't? Who isn't seeking better boundaries right now? Are you a healer? Are you looking for creating ways to heal your body? Have you undergone surgery? Are you trying to improve your immune system? Are you looking for health and vitality at a very important, not important, but at a very high level? Like, you might feel like you're healthy, but there's always room to expand for something greater. Are you looking to create financial freedom? Again, who isn't looking to create financial freedom? There are no accidents in this perfect world. You are here today to learn more about this revolutionary method called Awakening the Magnetic Mind with Rapid Recoding. If you are stuck and or frustrated, you are in the right place. If you're looking for creating a life you love, you are in the right place. Together, we are going on a journey today. And at the end of this webinar, my wish for you is to have greater clarity and experience what a recoding is. Who has received a recoding? Who knows what recoding is like? If you haven't had one, you're in for a treat. This is really dynamic work, really dynamic. What I have learned in doing the recoding is they're not all the same, and you're not the same. You know, just kind of like yoga, you show up, and how you show up, you don't show up the same every day. So what does it look like? What does choosing? I choose to create a life I love. I choose to create a life I love. Just let that sink in. I want you to feel that. I choose to create a life I love. You feel the traction that has? You feel how it has substance? I choose. Not I am. I am is kind of open and expansive. I choose. I choose to create a life I love. The word choose has traction. We are looking for traction. We're looking for a lot of traction. So the people that have inspired me, it's kind of a long list, and it's been a life list. I would say starting at age 13 when I saw Oprah Winfrey for the first time after school. You know, I think that's what I did. I came home from school and I watched Oprah Winfrey. I mean, what other teenager did that? I don't know. But that's something that I did. Wayne Dyer, Matt Kahn, Eckhart Tolle, Tony Robbins, Chris Duncan, and many others, including my beloved Tibetan Buddhist masters like His Holiness the 17th Karmapa and Pema Chodron. These incredible masters have opened the door for my emotional freedom. They have laid the foundation for me, and I've been extremely fortunate to have worked with them. And so it's really really important to know, to kind of know your past, to kind of know where you've come from and why you're here, what it is that has made you begin seeking. You know, how many of you, like, how long have you been seeking? Have you been seeking for, you know, decades? Have you been seeking since you were like 16 years old when you stumbled upon like that perfect book that brought that curiosity, or were you in your 20s? Are you overcoming an illness and then you stumbled upon something? There are many reasons why we actively choose seeking. Oh, I have a note here of why else we're here. We're looking for increased satisfaction and decreased pain. So who here can hop on board with increased satisfaction in life and decreased pain? So I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you coming here. I will not waste your time. I will give you actionable steps, and I will offer the next step with me for those that want to take it. So just please stay around for questions at the end. I will answer many of them. The secrets to creating a life you love are really very simple. I can narrow it down to 3. Knowing what structure you are creating from, knowing your current reality and your desired reality. Do they match? Are they separate? Are they one and the same? And knowing your end result. You know, do you step into your life in the conclusion that it won't work, or do you step into the curiosity and gratitude and wonderment of, I wonder what I can create today? So there is a basic formula. And because of this system, I've been lucky enough to create the life I love with both my work and my personal life. The list of seeking the emotional freedom led me on quite a journey, beginning with my journey of learning Reiki. That was in my 20s. And I loved it. I loved having light coming through my hands. I felt really powerful. I felt like I could just blast like these sunbeams coming out of my hands, and I was healing my body and I was healing pets, and I felt really powerful in my ability to heal. However, I don't know if others saw what I was capable of. And I was still on this journey of seeking. So in that process, I became an energy medicine practitioner with an acupuncture, and I learned to use flower and sea essences and gem essences, and in a way that are with 5-element Chinese medicine. And then I went through emotional freedom technique with EFT. I don't know who else is familiar with EFT tapping. It's a very powerful modality for 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 getting that undercurrent nugget of energy. It's like you know something's there, but you can't quite name it. So when you do tapping, which are points on your face, that you can speak to these meridians and you can speak to the energy that is sitting underneath, hiding, but wants to be expressed so that you can acknowledge it. I have had training in NLP and voice dialogue. I didn't even put that there. I've had training as an access bars facilitator, life coaching, both personal and financial freedom with relationships and with abundance and money. There's a lot of areas that I haven't, there's a lot of areas that I have covered in many people. And the most recent one is the Magnetic Mind Rapid Recode coaching, which is covering a lot of body processes. It's not just, it's like inside the recode there sits 25 or 30 different modalities, which is why it makes it so dynamic. But you must be educated first in order to undergo the process so that we can navigate the removing the resistance that's in your life. And by the way, I know that I had mentioned something about a book here. I have a book here called You're Not Broken, and it is by Chris Duncan, and it is truly the journey of the recoding. It's a journey, it's the education, it's what I'm going to be talking about today. So the most important thing is this always hasn't been this way. I have not always been this happy. I have not always been this vibrant. I have not always had an easy path. and that I'm calling it, as I recognize it, as the empath journey. And I know that a lot of you are empaths, and if you're not an empath, or you question whether you're an empath, after listening to my journey, you will then start to question whether you're an empath, or know that you're an empath, and see the value, because there is value in it, and it is an extraordinarily challenging path, extraordinarily challenging. And so my story begins with the basic: I was a victim, you know? Who can relate? I was a victim. Everybody raise your hand. Show me in the chat room. We're just going to name it for what it is. You have to, in order to change it, you have to name it. And so, and that emotional freedom is, you know, how many of you can relate as a victim who's like desperately wanting to have that freedom, because you know what it's like being a victim, and how devastating it can be. So my journey really started with being born into what I am now aware of from the decades of living it as a very highly sensitive empath. I've been this highly sensitive empath my whole life. And it's led me to Wayne Dyer's famous words, fake it till you make it. However, it took me almost 4.5 decades before realizing just what was missing. We're talking 4.5 decades, so how many years is that? That's a lot of freaking years. But you know, I don't give up, which is just, you know, amazing. And so what was missing? Self-care, self-love, and self-respect. Coming from narcissistic parents, and then being in a 25-year marriage of yet another narcissistic situation, all I can say is you get it when you get it when you get it. And boy, did I get it. Awakening is what it really is, and Shakti awakening is what I did. The struggle, my struggle at the time, was trying to be seen and be embodied. I spent most of my life being disassociated and enmeshed with others. And I had this thing that I did, besides being desperate to be, you know, loved, and this empty life that was attempting to keep on keeping on. This caring and pleasing and giving more than I had to give was really something that I did a lot, until I began unraveling after this marriage was over. And so over the years I could really see, as an empath, sovereignty is the bullseye. It can only be achieved through receiving the trifecta of self-care, self-love, and self-respect, which I just mentioned. And that trifecta begins with stronger boundaries and reducing the enmeshment tentacles. So finding where we begin and where the next person ends, and where we end and the next person begins, like this container of sovereignty, it's nearly impossible for empaths to master. I'm going to say nearly impossible, but because of the recoding, it is entirely possible. And not only is it entirely possible, but it becomes easier. And having grown up with these two narcissistic parents, as if that wasn't difficult enough, they prepared me for my karmic journey with my former husband. So that 25-year journey of enmeshment, being dismissed and devalued and disrespected, and living in his deflection and his denial of any kind of growth, really led me to where I am now. And I was always struggling with, I think the biggest thing I struggled with was this fear of not being seen, fear of lack, fear of not existing. I could go on and on with this one. Like, there's just, if you were to give me this category of fear, it would have probably 100 different aspects of it. And my world just got more and more contracting. And I just felt like I was a tiny little bunny, scared little bunny, and I didn't know how to change it, because it just kept creating more fear. It's like fear begets fear, love begets love. So if you're in contraction, you just keep creating more contraction. So I've been fortunate enough to have been given the second chance, and I call it second chance awakening. Awakening to my true nature, my true purpose, and my true joy. Lots of highs and lots of lows. Being an empath, there are dozens of different kinds of silences that I endured. I have lived a double life of what was inside of me but couldn't come out, and what needed to be faced but couldn't. Now, how many of you feel like you're living a double life or a triple life? It's truly, it's like we know inside of ourselves what we believe is real, and then the outside world sees another different reality because it's all projected. They're seeing their view. And so we don't know what's ours and we don't know what's theirs because that enmeshment has us in this inner conflict. And this inner conflict is truly what we're becoming emotionally free of. So when you feel trapped and held hostage and you know there is another way, I feel like I have found the other way, which is why you're all here, because I'm like, finally, I believe I struck gold. And I would like to share my riches with you. And you are so important to me. And I have such a caring nature that I really want everyone to know about this because we're all suffering on some level of emotional baggage, of emotional strife with whatever it is. I mean, you name it, somebody has something emotionally going on. So that is what my focus in life has become: emotional freedom in 7 minutes or less. The magnetic awakening that is inside all of us through many different teachers and many different modalities. I have found ways to flow in the world. The rapid recoding has brought all of them together in one place, and now I am ready for takeoff. So please join me on this journey. And that is where this journey begins. And what's really intense, I think it's intense because you're about to see what I have been experiencing. So you're seeing the after of me. You're seeing me having gone through this journey. So I'm going to show you. And if I don't start crying, I don't know. So I'm going to show you, this is my before. So this truly is where I was. I would say I was here 5 years ago, 2016, before the divorce. This is where it all began. This is my empty shell. This is truly where I hit the empty. There's nothing left. Nothing left to give, nothing left to live for, nothing left to offer, nothing left. I left. I left my body, I left my spirit, I left my there are no words to describe when you feel like you're just done. I'm done. You know? So if you can relate to being done and that you've had enough, give me a thumbs up, or in the chat room, you can relate. And I look at that picture and I see my mom, which is really funny. I look like my mother, and who I've become, I look like her daughter. So we're the same person in this photo of before and after, but I truly feel like I lost 20 years of my life from having that dead, empty space. And it's exhausting when you are coming from that level of exhaustion. You're empty. And I know you all know this because you wouldn't be here if you didn't feel that way. Whew, that was intense. I don't look at that photo much for a lot of reasons. So when I look at that photo of me, I mean, I've gained weight, I've lost weight, I've gained weight, I've lost weight, but I've had a lot of sadness in decades through all of it, from all of those silences. It's like desperate begets desperate, you know, that desperate to be seen, that desperate, but then there's a fear of being seen. So now you're like, I want to be seen, and now I've been seen, and like, oh shit, now what do I do? I've been caught. And so how do you live in those two dichotomies of wanting to be seen and not wanting to be seen? And the only way that I know that you can do that is by removing the resistance of what your current reality is and what your desired reality is. But I'm going to take you on quite a journey here, because the next step of this whole process is where it begins, and what happened to me, and what I'm sure that you will relate to. So this section is on the structure of reality. We have this distorted point of view in our mind. You know, we have this external events and information come in, and through different processes, through our beliefs and through our environment and through the language and through time and space and the attitudes, we create this internal representation. So have you ever heard the saying, we create our reality, or your point of view creates your reality? The reality is that we are all experiencing different realities at all times. Truly, we are literally experiencing through our own experience the results of trial and error that have led us to the points of view that we have. A belief is nothing more than a decision that was made. And so at 4 years old, or at 10 years old, or at 15, or at 40, or 50, something happened to you, an external event, and then you decided in that moment, you made a decision that that means this. That happened, therefore this is my behavior now. This is why I'm triggered. This is why I have this thought process. This is why what's a good example of one? When I failed a test, I'm now afraid of taking tests. Or when I got fired from a job based on my boss's perspective, whenever I have a boss that says, I need to talk to you, you have this adrenaline flooded through you that I must have done something wrong and I might be fired. And so we have all these internal representations that have set us up to distort. It's called the structure of reality for a reason. And when we are taking information in based on our own experience, we don't realize just how distorted it is, because we don't have a perspective. I have a really perfect analogy of this that was given to me from a medicine wheel. I had a Native American do this medicine wheel, and she had a bag of rocks that she put on the floor, and we were all sitting in a circle, and she's like, everybody take a rock, and so we all took a rock, and she's like, now make a circle. So we all make a circle. We all put a rock, and she's like, is it round? And everyone's like, no. And she's like, well, fix it. And so we all fix it. And is it round now? Well, not really. We'll fix it. And so she spent probably 5 minutes having everybody put their rock in a perfect spot, and making the circle to what we all said. We all were in total agreement that it's round. And so she said, great, now everybody stand up and rotate to the right and move 1 seat and sit back down. And so now we're all sitting in someone else's seat, and we actually look at the circle, and she goes, is it round? And everyone's like, no. I'm like, are you kidding me? And so we all have to fix the rocks and make them round again. And she's like, okay, now get up and sit in the next person's seat. And so we did that a few times, recognizing that every time we sat in someone else's seat, that that everybody in total agreement is now not in agreement. So now she's like, get up and go halfway around. So we go 180 degrees around and we sit down and she's like, is it round? And everyone's like, no. And so the reality is that we see everything through our own filters. Every aspect of our life is through our childhood filters. Everything is through our experience, through our filters with our environment, with our parents, with our bosses, with our teachers. There is not anything that you don't do where you aren't being influenced. So the media, everything influences our point of view. And then depending on where we accept and allow or resist and defend is where we're going to struggle. That inner struggle, that inner conflict that we talked about, it now has a lot to do with that place where we cannot agree on everybody because we are all coming from our own reality, correct? So there's a journey here that I'm going to take you on. I like how I'm bringing you on this journey because there's my journey, and then there's going to be the structure of reality journey, and then there's going to be the superconscious journey. To see this shift, the life changes that happen with my clients, it's amazing. So to see this shift, to see this happen, to connect to the field, I mean, it was only in the 90s that we decided that to look at the brain closely and to recognize that it's not hardwired. It's actually completely malleable and changeable. We use the metaphor of it being plastic, which is pretty wild in my opinion. And we talk about this neuroplasticity. So it's very, very exciting. So let's get into this work and have an experience. So here's a question that I've had for a very long time. I'm going to start here. Can you all see that? You can all see that. You can all see that. All right. Why? Right? Why? This is the question. Why don't people have the life they want? It is a lifelong question. Why? Like, why don't we have it? I mean, it seems every year, more technology comes out, more ideas come out, books come out. Why is it we don't have it again? Why don't we have it? Well, there's one word that is the answer. You all ready for this answer? This is a big burning question. Why we don't have it? Give me a big yes in the chat room. Be able to see the chat room. I just saw that. Okay, I'm going to write down in red to match my shirt. Why? Structure. It is the most important word that we are going to talk about today, is structure. Structure has integrity. Okay? So, do you understand what integrity means? Do you understand how to integrate integrity? Do you understand how structure has to have the right integrity? And when you have an infrastructure based on a foundation of lies or a foundation of out of integrity, then you have the integrity is weak. You have weak integrity. And so we are looking to understand just what this means. So structure, the way that something is structured is the way it is going to exist. For example, a balloon has a certain structure. In fact, if I just flick a balloon, it's going to move. It has a certain structure. Whereas a building, if I try to flick or even push a building, nothing is going to happen because it has a different structure. Now, what's interesting is that a lot of us have structures that aren't working against us. I use this all the time in examples of saying how life is working against us, or how the universe is working against us, how we are in our own prison. I guess you could look at it that way. Instead of things being open and free, they're closed and locked in. But you can also be locked out of it. So, for example, a rocking chair has a certain structure. Who has ever felt like their life is a little bit like a rocking chair? You move forward and backwards, forward and backwards. So that's a certain type of structure, like a pendulum. Who feels like their life is a bit like a pendulum? You move forward, you move towards it, and then you come back. You move towards it, and then you come back again. That's a structure. So who would prefer to have a structure that is more like a car for them? You put your foot down and the car just moves forward. You know, there's no backwards. We call that an accelerating structure. Now, structure can change. Let's take water, for example. Water can have the same molecules, but the structure of it can change. Does that make sense? You're the same, but the structure is different. So you can have ice, you can have liquid water, you can have steam, and even plasma. These are all different structures. Does that make sense? They are just structured differently. So that's what's true here. So who would prefer to have a structure that is more like a car for them? You put your foot down and the car just moves forward. You know, there's no backwards. How fun would that be? Well, we have a desired reality. Start with one. We have a desired reality. And we have a current reality. Which is where we are. What happens in the personal development world and life and everything else says you are here in your current reality and you want to go here, right? And my question is, why are we not just here? Why are we not already here? Why can't these be the same? Why are we here and we want to go here, and why can't we just be here? I think it's ridiculous with the amount of advancements we have, and yet we are still a society that is unsatisfied with what we have. Does that make sense? We've got to get to the next place, and the next place after that. I mean, how is it true with all the advancements that we still have depression and everything else happening? If you think about it and you try to tell our ancestors on a hot summer's day, I can just walk to the freezer and get an ice cube by just pressing a button, and there's this thing that instantly delivers the ice. That's how fast it can be. You know, what if we could go to the refrigerator and press a button and money just flows out of it? You have your own instant bank account in your refrigerator. It's pretty funny. So we have so much access to our stuff, but why is it true that our current reality isn't our desired reality? We are still in this place and we don't know how to create. The truth is we have a competing structure that is holding us back. We are in this current reality, we're here, and we are trying to get here to this desired reality, but we have things that are behind us holding us back. And the first thing that is holding us back, I wonder if you all know the answer already. The first thing that is holding us back, beliefs, our beliefs. The next thing that is holding us back is our identity. And these are holding us back. They are not allowing us to move forward. The next thing is emotions. I'm going to address each one of them, by the way. This is a really big thing today. The next thing is correct action. And then we have past events, also known as trauma. And then so past events that are there, and there's so much holding us back even more. And then we have unwanted circumstances, and the last one is negative vision. So we have beliefs, identity, emotions, correct action, past events, which is trauma, unwanted circumstances, and negative vision. And these all sitting here are literally the things that are holding us back. This is very important to understand. So what happens is there is like a rubber band pulling us to our future. So we have a rubber band here, and we have a rubber band here. And you can see the difference between here and there. And what happens is, as you go this way, you end up going back this way. You go this way, and then you go back this way. And you go back this way, and you go back this way. All for the sake of asking to have this desired reality. We move forward and we move back. We move forward and we move back. We never really escape. Is this true? Who has seen this in others and yourself? We never really escape this. We have all these goals, but then there's like a ceiling. Why don't we have it? Why don't we have it? Why have we not figured out how, with all this technology, to have what it is that we'd like to have? And the truth is because we have two competing structures. And I want to explain to you how this works. This is really important. Really, really important. The first thing is we start moving towards our desired reality, but we have beliefs. These dreaded beliefs. You have to remember, belief is nothing more than a decision that was made, but these beliefs are so strong. They're implanted in us. So we have these beliefs in our current reality that says, it's hard. I can't do it. It's difficult. People will judge me. I don't have money. I don't have the time. Someone has already done it. We have these beliefs. So instead of focusing on what we want, we focus on this list. We focus here. Instead of focusing here, we focus here. And we try to resolve this. So when you have beliefs, so this is part of the back and forth that I'm getting to. So when we have the beliefs, we're attempting to resolve. So we went here, it didn't feel good, it didn't work, I don't like it, so we have to fix it by resolving it. So we go back down. So now so this one was here, now we're here. This one we're going to go back towards here, and we're going to go here to identity. But I want to finish up with the beliefs part first. This is one of the most messed up things in personal development. Instead of going for what you want, you start looking for these beliefs. You go down, and so then you go down here and you work yourself and you become addicted to just fixing and working on yourself. This is basically saying, I'm broken, I've got to fix these beliefs in order to have this. You see, I don't have the right belief structures. So we go the other way. As soon as we start moving, we have beliefs that pull us back. So what about identities? There are 6 identities that really create sabotage. The first one is not good enough. I'm not good enough. The second one is I'm unworthy. So the first one, not good enough. The second one is I'm not worthy. The third is I don't belong. The fourth identity, I'm not capable. The fifth identity is I need to be perfect. And the sixth identity is I'm insignificant. Now I'm going to explain in a little while where these identities come from, but we have these identities here. We have these identities here that, like, all of these are part of the identities that we have in the current reality. This all lives here. Do you understand it? This is what I call baggage. This is our baggage, and it lives here in our current reality. But we have these identities that are not equal to the desired reality. So your current reality does not equal your desired reality. This is huge. This is one of the hugest parts of this. I'll give you an example. For me, I had an identity of not being good enough. So every time I created something that I was not good enough, my identity didn't want to die. My identity said I'm not good enough, and so I coded it up. If I have this result in my life, then I'll be good enough. Then my identity goes, okay, then if you are good enough, then I'm dead. And that part of me has to die. And guess what? That identity doesn't want to die. So it never lets you have it, because you are not it. You are not it. Your identity fights you, and it will always pull you back. So give me a yes if this makes sense. Who has an identity conflict where your identity won't let you have it? You are aware you don't have it. I'm not that. I'm not worthy of that. I'm not significant of that. I'm not capable of that. We have this as an identity, and it pulls us back every time. So you have this message constantly and silently reminding you that you don't have it. So it must be true. I'm not good enough. So you can see how your current reality, how your current identity doesn't equal your desired reality. When you have all this baggage here in your current reality, and we think the grass is greener over here, and looking here doesn't match that, we can't create from here to have that. It doesn't work that way. The next one is, who's enjoying this, by the way? So I'm glad that you're enjoying this. So the next one is emotions. You know, I used to think emotions were sacred. Boy, was I wrong. For me, I grew up in a working class society. Has anyone else here grown up in a working class family? And by the way, that's an identity too. And working class, the emotion is about not having. It's about scarcity. I have to work hard and go for it. The emotion of having what you want is usually completely different to the emotion you are in right now. A lot of people will ask me how I got to where I am now. First of all, I had to give up my emotional addiction to scarcity. You know, just think about how much fear, as an empath, all of that emotional strife, you know, scarcity and fear kind of go hand in hand. I had to give up my emotional addiction to scarcity, my emotional addiction to frustration. I had to shift from being a striver and a seeker to someone already having it. So our emotions are out of alignment. So our emotions are out of alignment. So our current reality and our desired reality don't equal because our emotions are pulling us back when our emotions are out of alignment. I'm sure you can all relate. We all have our emotional, what is it? Emotional baggage, right? So again, baggage doesn't match. We have belief baggage. We have identity baggage. We have emotional baggage, correct action baggage, past event baggage, unwanted circumstances baggage, and negative vision. So we're going to get to all of these different kinds of baggage as we go on here. So the next one, we're always looking to take the correct action. We are always thinking there is a magical action, a correct way to do something. And what I have found is looking for the correct action, it a lot of times becomes our excuse. when I see big things creating like Oprah Winfrey and all of her, God, she's got a legacy for sure, and J.K. Rowling of Harry Potter or Jim Carrey, they really did just simple things. They didn't spend all this obsessive time looking for trying to find the next way to hack the system or beat the system. It was that they just did it. I find a lot of us will dabble and we always change course. So a person will always look for correct action. So instead of just going for what you want or what they want, they always go to the different things, never mastering anything. So who here has been told that they just bounce around? They bounce around from one modality to another modality to another one to another one to another one. Who has that seeker? I mean, it's a seeker. I mean, who here is a seeker? I mean, that's really what bouncing around is. It's seeking that which is going to fulfill you. Does that make sense? We must get out of our heads and not believe everything we think. Pema Chodron once said, don't believe everything you think. Actually, it's don't believe everything you hear and don't believe everything you think. I've had this on my refrigerator for decades. So the next one is past events. One of the things we do is when it comes to past events, just because it happened to you as a past event, you place a higher probability on it to happen in the future, but it doesn't change its probability of it happening. So let me put this in a different way. You have a higher probability of reading a book while walking and dying than being in a terrorist attack. As extreme as that is, this country has had a terrorist attack, and the focus is on that rather than focusing on walking. And you see this at the airport when we have to remove our shoes. I mean, this thing happened how many years ago? In 2011, or what year was it that the 9/11 happened? I can't even remember. My brain just put numbers all in there. So that happened, and here we are in I don't even know what year we're in now. Literally just wiped out of my brain. Holy moly. I'm sure somebody will put that in there. 20 years ago. Thank you, Amy. But think about this. 20 years ago that happened, and we have had to deal with the stupidity of the airports and how we have to, where we can't bring liquids, where we can't have things, like that one action was the focus for flying for the rest of our life. And that's really, really important to see, because that past event is such a low probability for daily life, for daily living. It's now become kind of concretized in some ways that it's just the way it is. And so I really need you to understand that when we focus on this, that, oh, I attracted this bad thing in their head and they believe it's going to happen again. Does that make sense? It still doesn't change the probability, but we take the different actions because of the past event. So we put a higher weighting on things than have the things that have already been experienced. And we also ignore what could happen instead, meaning we're looking behind us instead of in front of us. But we're looking sometimes, well, the past and the future, you know, that's this here. You can look at it this way: future, past, future, past, future, past. There's many ways to look at that. So we have a higher probability for it to happen in the future. Hope you can see that. I think you can see that. The next one is unwanted circumstances. I think we all know what that means. This is very tricky. Unwanted circumstances. Instead of going for what we want, we say, we don't want this. We don't want this. What happens is if we only take action on unwanted circumstances, say you say you don't want this. So say you're here and you don't want this. And say you don't want this. What happens if you only take action on unwanted circumstances in that I don't want this, and you start moving towards this desired reality. And here in the desired reality, don't want it here, you know. And is it always going to be part of the structure of the desired reality? So how many people do you know that carry forward that which they don't want with them into in relationships, in jobs? It's always there. So I see people who get really rich, or they create a right relationship, or they lose the weight, but then they are never going for something pure. They were going for something because they want to get rid of the thing they don't want about themselves. So now they look bad about themselves in a better looking body, or bad about themselves in a relationship, right? So eventually that wears themselves out and they pull themselves back. And now they are back to this current reality. So they don't want this, but they go in this direction. They bring it in a pretty package, but they're carrying all of this baggage. And so then it pulls them right back into this current reality because they can't sustain it. And this is a choice by reaction. So unwanted circumstances is a choice by reaction. The last one is negative vision. This is a really interesting thing for people to say. They don't really actually want the result. The unwanted circumstances is just being in reaction, and the negative vision is where they don't actually want this. They have created this desire based on what society has told them, what others will think of them, what their parents believe about them. It's not a true thing. It's negative. It's done for someone else, and therefore you will always sabotage it. Have you known doctors or lawyers that choose it because their parents expect it of them? How does that make one happy? So why am I telling you all this? I think this is the biggest problem in society right now. Our structure is the problem. This is the problem. This is a problem focused on the structure. This structure. So let me do this in blue. It's getting all colorful here. So we have a problem. I also call it a problem reality. A problem focused structure, which is also the same as saying a problem reality. So we have a problem reality. We have a problem reality. We have a problem focused structure. Does that make sense? It's colorful. This is why healing doesn't work for most people. This is why personal development programs don't work for people. And I see people going to course after course after course. They go to a healer after healer after healer, and they wonder why they are not creating what they love. Not to mention how disempowering it is for them, believing that the answer is always outside of themselves. It's because their current reality is the problem. Structure has integrity. Remember? Structure has integrity. And in this structure, this current reality, this structure, you're just trying to fix the current reality rather than creating. This is the working class paradigm. It says your life right now is no good. Your health is no good. You're no good. So you need to come out over here. The structure is, my friends, why we don't have it all. It's a big, big, big part of our work. Structure has integrity, and just helping people do what I'm about to explain to you will make a lot of difference. So this is kind of part one of why I'm doing this webinar today. This is extremely, when you start understanding that this is the tension of going this way and having to come back and fix it. So I'm here, I'm not happy with right here. This is better. So I'm going to go towards that career I've always wanted, or that home I'm going to buy, or that car I'm going to buy, or that relationship that I've always wanted. But something which I'm going to, but we, and the six identities of the I'm not good enough, or I'm not capable, or I'm not worthy, or I'm, the list I have in the chat room. These identities, along with these beliefs, along with past events, along with your emotions out of alignment, along with high probability, along with choice by reaction, and along with contraction and living in this negative vision because you're doing this for other people, all of this is what stops you from choosing this. So, who's enjoying this? It's really intense sometimes. It can be really powerful, but it can also be really intense at times. So I want to just check in. There's a big me. Me, oh great, I'm glad, Lauren. Does anyone have any questions right now before I move on? Let me go there first. Let's take a water break or a question break. I find this really exciting because it is kind of like the story of my life. Like when I look at my patterns in life, I can see where my emotions and my identities and my beliefs and my past events and my past traumas have stopped me.
What do you mean by out of alignment? That's what I need to know. Explain that part. You say out of alignment.
Okay.
That's what I need to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
So beliefs, again, are based on the active experience. I have here, let me go here for a second. I'm going to mute. So this is a really good depiction of what I'm going to say with the emotions, because emotions are an accumulation of information based on active experience, based on external events and information that has come in. So when we have, this is a diagram of the structure of reality and how our point of view creates our world. When we have this external event, so say you had a sibling that passed away when you were growing up and your parents experienced the grief of it, that experience of your reality versus your parents' reality is not going to be the same, and it gets distorted. It comes in, it gets filtered in through your time and space, through your language, through your memories, through your traits, through your decisions, through your attitudes, and through your values and beliefs. It's internally representing a state of mind. And when you are, say, 7 years old, and you have an experience of a traumatic thing with a sibling, that your parents have a different point of view on it because they're the parent and they're the one that raised it and birthed it, and it's a whole different reality than a sibling. The sibling will have a different point of view on it. And if they're young enough, they might not remember it the same way, and they might not have the same impact. And so the behavior that comes out of here, your emotions and your behaviors are kind of like a seesaw. You have a feeling, you have an emotion, you have a thought. It teeter-totters on how you feel. And so if you feel sadness, but it's not yours, say you're carrying your parents. I just realized that you can't see me. When you have your parents carrying this trauma and dynamic experience, you then have a different emotional response because you're experiencing, again, external events here, which are your parents outside of you. You internalize it into this internal representation, into your state, into your physiology, and it goes into your cellular memory. And so your cellular memory is very, we have somatic. I don't know if you know what soma is. Soma is it's emotion in your body. Somatic emotional releases. I've done a lot of soma work in my life, and We store things in our lungs, we store things in our back, we store things in our uterus, we store things in our hands. Everywhere there is a cell, there is a memory that can go there. And so that is one way of looking at the unconscious, because we don't identify it until the emotion is brought up, until we have the active experience of choosing to look at it, maybe through a writing exercise. These are dormant memories that don't get triggered until they get triggered. And so you're asking me about the emotions and how they are part of, let's see, Corrine, what can you remind me again? You're looking to understand the emotion and how it's attached to which thing?
But to the conscious.
Okay,
When you
so
say in terms of being out of alignment.
right. Okay, thank you. So when you are in alignment, you are in your knowing, you are in your perceiving, you are in your senses, you are in this alignment of inner being, you're in your inner truth. You're not looking outside of yourself. And when you have filters, so when we look at that distorted things that come in, when we have our filters, we cannot see truth unless we look inside. But we don't have the maturity and the wisdom at a young age. But we have the innocence at the young age. So there's like a perfect storm that has to happen to bring the wisdom, and we have to bring the awareness, and we have to bring the innocence together in a place that it masters the mind, so that the mind is filtering from the truth of wisdom and not from the truth of attachments. Because the attachments bring the pain, the attachments of the emotions, because emotions are it's motion and movement. It's anger, it's fear, it's sadness, it's happy, it's an emoting of something in movement. And an emotion in its senses, you're not in your, like when you're in your superconscious, you're not in your thoughts and your feelings. When you're in your subconscious, you're in your active experience of unconscious things that are automatically done, or your ego, which has a lower frequency. And so your emotions are going to be in the pendulum swing. I mean, look at girls when they are hormonal. You have this incredible swing of emotions. And when that hormone is balanced, you're not swinging, you're in your center. And so we're looking for, well, I'll get that in a little bit. we're looking for your current reality to equal your desired reality. We're on a journey here. So did that help answer that question, Corrine? You can just type yes in the chat room if that did. Because alignment is being in congruency. It's being congruent. It's being, I would say, we're going to get to the wizard's gate in a little bit. It's that neutral place where you're not being in the pull from here and the pull from here. If you look at taffy and you pull taffy, or you pull a rubber band, which side do you want to be on? One's going to slap you back and the other one's going to propel you forward. So the emotions have potency. Like anger is often misidentified and misapplied as potency. So if you're in your potency, you're in your presence, you're in your capacities, your capabilities. And when you are not in alignment, you are often, things are being used against you. Your emotions are being used against you. It's draining you, it's depleting you. You're crying all the time. You feel disconnected. When you are disconnected, you are not in alignment with source. And ultimately what I'm talking about is source. So I hope that clarifies things. So I'm sharing about personal development and why it doesn't work, because personal development says you can fix yourself to be able to get somewhere, and that couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth, from creating. So this is what I did, by the way. I went around trying to fix myself. I went around getting EFT and Reiki and hypnosis and NLP. I changed my diet, went gluten-free. I took plant medicines. I did the spirulina drinks, you know, yummy green smoothies, going to retreats, going to this class, this program, and spending thousands of dollars going to these things, trying to fix who I be, going towards what I want, trying to create based on an identity that never ever can have it. My identity is working class. I want millions. I could never have it. I tried to shift with emotions. So frustrated, pissed off, scarcity, trying to plant seeds of doubt to grow confidence. I then took different actions. I read books and I took lots and lots of actions and more action. And what happened was all I did was move a little bit forward and move a little bit back, move a little forward and move a little back. So let me ask, how many of you would like to know the answer to this riddle? Because clearly it's a riddle. So how do you then create? Who wants to know the answer to this? Because it's a big shift. And when I learned this and I made the shift, I was able to create the life I love and keep it. It doesn't disappear on me. I think that's a really big. So, instead of being in the problem-solving reality, we need to be in the creative structure. By the way, this is part of the end result. So the creative structure. Funny. Now, when people send me in their testimonials with how they are off depression medicine or how they have these life-changing recodes for them and how they are lighter and have more hope, how their pain has gone away, it's because I get them into a creative structure. So what we have to do is set up that our creative reality. So we are looking for our, not creative, our current reality has to equal our desired reality. So current reality must equal desired reality. That means they have to be the same. And in order to do this, these are like key pieces here. Key pieces. In order to have this be a must, this is a must. I am truly satisfied Do you understand this? I am truly satisfied with anything. That's where resiliency comes in. You must choose to create this and this equaling. You must be in a I am truly satisfied. You must create from that place. I must first get truly satisfied in the now and then create. And what you have got to understand is that your desired reality doesn't make life better. These are some really key components here. Lost my black. Where did my black go? Pull it away. So desired reality doesn't make my life better. The whiteboard writes faster. So, desired reality doesn't make my life better. Really big, really, really big. This is the hardest one for us to understand. I used to think that when I would have plenty of money, then everything would change. When I was married, when I had kids, when I had more clients. The grass may look greener on the other side, but when you get there, it isn't. So, desired reality doesn't make my life better, is what everyone in the personal development world makes and tells you. They say, when you're healed, your life will be better. When you make all this money, your life will be better. The truth is, your life will be exactly the same. Exactly the same. Because you turned up to that new reality, you've turned up to it, right? I remember this. When I see people that were so sick and unhealthy and everything else, they say, we're unhealthy and we're unhealthy and we're unhealthy. Everything's going to be better so that they can start getting healthy and change their diet, or they get more and more money. But guess what? They still are sick. They spent all the money they got. They gained the weight back. Isn't that what yo-yo dieting is? They had to create their current reality because that's them. Their identity had to pull them back. So this is so important. This is so important. Their identity, this has to pull you back. Unless you can embrace, this is what meditation is all about, by the way. Unless you can embrace your life as being satisfied as it is right now, you will never, ever have an equal sign here. It doesn't work. So it didn't matter. They would just have to recreate this until they enter the Wizard's Gate. And I'm going to talk or teach to you about the Wizard's Gate today. Until they enter the Wizard's Gate of no desire and no resistance. And that's when they are able to do it. And that's what I want you to get, because if you want to create healing in other people or healing in yourself, if you want to manifest your dreams, you have to understand what we are all told is rubbish. The personal development world literally collapses you into a reality that says, now's not good, and when you get here, it will be better. You're not good. You have to download code. You have to have ayahuasca. You have to go to healings. Think a certain way. Eat a certain food. Do affirmations. And if you do that, you'll have it. So one of the biggest ones I see, you've got to feel abundant in order to make money. And it's so backwards. It's so backwards. I've met so many people who don't feel abundant. In fact, I grew up around a lot of adults with money who I would consider rich. I sensed how empty they were, how lonely they were. They don't feel abundant. And then I meet someone who is so abundant and they are sitting on the beach with no money and trying to get someone to sign up for $100 healing that they want to do, right? It's just not true. And so in this creative structure, what all the super successful know, do you want to know how they do this? This is a game changing. This is so game changing. It's like powerful game changer. Success, creating, and healing is not personal. This is the missing nugget that everybody is looking for. Success, healing, and creating is not personal. Whew. We make it personal. They said all of us that can't create, we make it personal. We make it personal. How many of you take things personal? I like that. Yeah, Lauren. I want to say it's where your birth chart falls on, but I know that's not true. And it's very easy to get lost with taking things personal. It is. It's structural. This is so big. Just stay with me for a second on this. There's a guy named Warren Buffett. He's created from scratch the third most money on the planet. Guess what? He lives in a small house, the same small house. It's like $300,000 house. He didn't get a big house. He eats at McDonald's every day. Every single day he eats there and drinks Coca-Cola. He is a complete creator. At one point of his life, he wasn't really getting along with his wife. They weren't really getting on, but he didn't want a divorce. He said, "I love you." So he found a way for his wife and for them to stay together. So his wife was completely okay with it. She moved to San Francisco and helped her to live a great life. And she was fine with that. And he had found a mistress, and he had someone in the house as another girlfriend. And I think to myself, wow, that's not for me, but what a creator. He he has McDonald's every single day, which I would never do, and hundreds of thousands of people that, work with him and love him. And give me a yes if you can see this. That's very different than the person telling him you have to be vegetarian, gluten-free, alkaline. You've got to do all these special things and think a certain way. Give me a yes if you think this is true. What about Oprah or Michael Jackson? They didn't take success personal. What about Lady Gaga crying before she goes on stage, but she still feels like a loser? Can you believe that? It's just heartbreaking. What I'm trying to tell you is there's a difference between what we are told and what's actually true about creating. When I see people that have truly made success on the planet, they didn't make it about them. They didn't make it about them. It's about structure. And this is so big. And I'm going to give you the structure of creating. So when you understand my desired reality doesn't equal my current reality, I'm truly satisfied now, and I want to create. And creation to me is like turning up to a restaurant and saying I'm going to have the chicken or the fish. It doesn't make or change my life. I'm the same person. I'm going to have 1 million or 10 million. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be broke. I'm going to be confident. I'm going to be shy. It's not about me. It's about understanding I'm the same. I might as well feel good now because success is not about me. Who gets the point? I want you to see who's understanding what I'm saying, that it's all about structure and not personal. I may as well feel good because success is not about me, right? Just think about this. How many of you would like to make more money? There's so much misinformation about money. One of the worst ones is people say money is energy. Who used to believe that money is energy? Or who still believes that money is energy? Money is a measurement. It means something. It's a structure measuring the level of creative energy that you apply in your life. And so what does it measure? It measures the amount of value you have provided to another human being in a way they want you to pay for. They want to pay for it. Money measures value. You've provided to another human being in a way they want to pay for it. And what is value? Either you are increasing satisfaction to that human or decrease pain. That's it. Money is a structure. It's also a byproduct of creation, and what you create is the value you offer to increase satisfaction or decrease pain. That's it. Money has nothing to do with time. Time is just a way to deliver the value. Who gets this? Who understands this is structure? This is so important to get. Who here has spent their life taking things personal? It has nothing to do with abundance. I can feel abundant and make lots of money, or I can feel broke and make lots of money. I've had hundreds of thousands of dollars in my bank account and felt broke, and I've had $20 in the bank account and felt rich. It doesn't matter. The way you are doesn't relate. It's only a measurement. It's not an energy. Kareen just said, I think I got a breakthrough moment. I might as well feel good because success is not about me. So feel good anyway. Yep, that's true. Okay, I'm going to take a 5-minute water break, pee break. So I saw the time and I need to take a break. So I will be right back. And I'm going to show you this superconscious journey right now, which is really fascinating. Can you all see that? So it all starts here. We're born. We're born into this pure creative spirit, the spirit of innocence. We are born in purity. We're born in no judgment, and we have no judgment. We don't judge ourselves. We're just present. We are born in this pure creative spirit that is completely present, 100% present. And you go along and you start to like crawl and walk and talk, and you become individual with a limited perspective. When I cry, mom and dad does this. Did they get it right? No, I was hungry. They changed my diaper instead. was I needing, to sleep, and they did something else? So we learned really, really early on that when we do something, there's going to be a response. We behave a certain way, and there's going to be a response. And as we get older, between, I would say, 0 and 4 years old, we start taking these messages in, and we start taking them personal. We start taking them in. When mom says this, then I do that. When dad says this, I do this. When I'm not listening, I might get punished. Or when I'm wanting to do something, I have to do something else first. We learn these patterns. We learn them in utero through our mom. So if the mom has been steeped in her victim energy, or if the mom has been empowered, depending on where mom is, we're carrying subconsciously these vibrational, we'll call them notes. So these notes that the mom is like the frequency of the mom, we are now the frequency of that. So if the mom is a frequency of a victim, the chances of you being a victim are pretty high. If your mom is extremely independent and strong, the chances of you being very independent and strong are very high, and everything in between. So we carry this personality, this enmeshed personality, because when you're born between 0 and 7, your nervous system is still your mom's nervous system. So for quite a while, we don't know anything different. We just know our micro world is this, and we behave this way, and that happens. And so we learn these patterns, and these patterns set us up to orientate to the world through this limitation. So between 0 and 7 years old, we are learning where we are limited. We forget that we're super conscious. We forget that we have this pure creative spirit. We forget because we have to learn to be safe. Where, like, you touch a hot stove and you get burned, we need to know what is important and what isn't. If we had to pay attention to everything, we would have fried our circuitry completely. If we have to pay attention to our breathing, if we have to pay attention to our digestion and all of the functioning of the body, we would literally fry our circuitry, as there are just so many electrical currents in the body, and it's not possible for us to pay attention to all of it. And so we have some things that go dormant. There are some things that are on autopilot, and there are some things that are being actively experienced at all times. And that's what we're going to talk about, and I'm going to do some fancy drawing on a whiteboard. But right now I would like to explain to you that with this limited point of view, with this limitation that you are now coming into the world, there's a pattern that's been established, and breaking that pattern is nearly impossible when you don't understand the steps. And so that is where I'm coming in here with what are the steps? What is it that we're here to learn, and why are we here to learn them? They're like, literally, it's a formula. When you know how to create from the correct structure, when you know the difference between your current reality and your desired reality, and when you know your end result, when you know what you're asking for your end result, then you have this juicy secret that is going to navigate you through this journey. So as you come to this limitation, you're going to create your life to solve this limitation. And I'm going to break out my whiteboard and I'm going to draw for you something really, really wild. I'm going to take you on another journey. So let's see. So this is ego. We all know what ego is, right? So the ego is also the right and wrong reality. It's the energy of it's a low vibration. It's a very, very, very low vibration. And the ego has a desire to create, it's defined itself. I define myself as I'm really good at this. And so I would like to go into the world creating what I'm good at. So say it's computers. I'm really good at creating computers. And or whatever it is, apps. We'll say app. And you want to build a business in this. But every time you start, there's something that gets in the way. And you don't know what that is, but you just know that there's something stopping you. And so there's this really interesting experience that kind of vacillate back and forth. It's like if this is your, let's see, I'm gonna need an eraser, I just realized. Okay, so you can see over here. So if your current reality is wanting to create an app and your desired reality is having a very lucrative, it's so backwards, it's wild. And if you're here and you're wanting to go here, but I don't have enough money, I don't have enough skills. I think I have enough skills, but I don't know if I have enough skills. So I have to go back to school, but then I have to have money for school. But then I want to create, well, I need a partner because my partner now will have what I have, like my partner will invest in me. I'll do what I love to do, and that person will, and then all of a sudden it gets really convoluted and it gets really kind of edgy because your intention is to go here, but actually what happened is you got stuck and you ended up having to fix something. We don't know what you're fixing, but you have to fix something because something is broken. Something's not right. Something's in the way, but you don't know what that something is. So you put all this energy in trying to fix this. And I can use a different example where you have a health issue and you want to, so say you have say you get migraines and you want to be migraine free. So in the meantime, you're doing all the things, you're eating all the right foods, you're exercising, you're detoxing, you're reducing your toxic load, you're doing everything right. And in the meantime, you now have a rash, but you don't know why you have a rash. But a rash is now your focus. And so now we have to fix the rash. We don't know where the rash came from, but we lost sight of where we were going. We wanted to be migraine free, right? We wanted to have this health and vitality, but you have something that got in the way of it. But now you don't have enough money because you used all your money up going to an acupuncture, you used your money up going to a doctor, or you used up all your money. You're only allowed to have 10 visits to the hoo-ha of, the doctor or the therapist or the whatever. Now your insurance only covers 10 visits. And so you're stuck. What am I going to do? I need that help. I need that person to fix me. So now you're back to this current reality where your migraines haven't been taken care of, have they? You've used up all of your money on trying to get to your end result because you had to fix something else. And so when you live in this, you begin seeing that you oscillate. You're going from one to the other. So it can be anything. It can be career, it can be health, it can be finances. You have money, you don't have money. You have money, you don't have money. You have money, you don't have money. And so you oscillate back and forth. So it can be money, no money. Good health, bad health. Right? Who can relate to this? In the chat room, tell me if you can relate to this. So I call this oscillating, definitely. Definitely, I relate. Oh yeah. So I call this oscillating. This is we're oscillating. And you know where else you oscillate? You oscillate in a rocking chair. You move forward, you move backwards. You move forward, you move backwards. And you keep moving, but getting nowhere. You're not getting the end result, and you're not getting you're not taking care of business, because you end up back at your current reality and it's driving you crazy and you don't know why. And you don't know what you need to fix because you don't have enough money, or you're just full of excuses because it just stops you every time. I mean, how many here, thumbs up, how many of you have said, every time I do this, this happens? Every time I try to do the right thing, something else goes wrong. Every time I try to take care of my health, every time I try to exercise, this is a perfect one. Every time I try to exercise, something happens. You know, I pull a muscle, or your schedule changed. Now you don't have time. So every time I do this, that happens. You know, if I were to take you back to 4 years old and you learn that every time you did this, that happened, you'll start to see a pattern. Amy, yes, then you get to the point of why bother trying. Exactly. So, so now we're at conscious, subconscious. So your subconscious is coming from of an active experience that's like on autopilot. So your subconscious is always looking for balance, always. So here you have this oscillating thing going on, but your subconscious is saying, we really want balance for you, so we're going to do everything we can to bring you back to that balance. Which means there's this pendulum thing that's going to take you on a ride until you can find that still point, which I'll get to in a minute. And then you have the superconscious. So the superconscious overrides everything. And when you're down here in this ego and you bypass, you start here and you go up to superconscious, to the superconscious field, it brings back instructions through the subconscious, changing the subconscious, and it overrides the oscillation. So you're no longer moving back and forth, back and forth. And so the recoding, which is removing the resistance, you go up into the superconscious field, you get commands and new instructions, and then it takes you on a journey to get past where it is you're stuck, which is why it's so profound. So when you're in this current reality and you're trying to go to this desired reality, if you do not bypass the subconscious into that superconscious, your current reality is never ever going to equal your desired reality. You will always be in the oscillation of that low frequency of right and wrong, good and bad. Doesn't work, it does work, it does work, it doesn't, it does, it does. And you're going to go back and forth. I take the steps forward, I take the steps back. And you're going to be in this perpetual loop. And I call it an abuse loop. And I call it, well, I call it, I mean, you could call it a sabotaging loop, but there's a loop that happens that you have locked into. And you know if you are locked into that loop, because no matter what you do, you can't get out of it, right? And so what you're looking to create is your current reality equaling the desired reality. So you want your money to equal in your current reality your desired reality. You want your relationships to equal your relationships in the desired reality. You want them to be the same. You don't want to have this gap. And so when we do the recoding, it closes the gap, which you'll experience later. But in the meantime, I have so many things to share. All right, so how does this happen? So you can see this, okay. You have this active experience. You have subconscious, and you have ego. And inside the active experience, you have dormant memories. You also have trauma memories. And these trauma memories have been activated inside inside the ego, inside in your active experience in your daily lives. You know where you have your triggers, right? We'll call it a trigger memory. You have these part personalities, you have a main personality. And so you have this field of subconscious and ego. And on the outside here, I'm just showing you a different version of this. Outside of here, you have, this is the superconscious field. And the superconscious field literally goes before birth and after birth and has this, it's kind of like a living library. I mean, some may call it the Akashic Records, but it's a field of information that has no emotions and feelings, but it has all of this wisdom. And when we have these dormant memories get triggered and we take them into our active experience, into our daily lives and these ego, there's this perpetual trap. It's that loop where you are creating from. So I'm going to ask who here, well, let me go back to my slideshow. I don't want to jump too far ahead. So we have these beliefs that trap us or loop us. And so one of them is I don't belong, I'm insignificant, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve, I'm not worthy, I'm invisible or I'm insignificant, and I'm not capable. I have to be perfect. I call them the six delinquents because they are these energies of personalities, the part personalities that have been created from a very early age that are the thing that are running your life. They are the reason that you can't make it to where you're going. And so we have to change our beliefs, we have to change our thought structures so that we can bypass this oscillation. So we can bypass the subconscious, the unconscious, where we have this active experience where we know that we are not good enough and not capable. I mean, there are two types of people that have to be perfect. The overachiever that has to seek and seek and seek and seek, and then they are hiding in their overachieving. And then there's the other person who has to be capable and perfect, where they won't take the step that's required because they can't ever achieve that which they dream, because it's just too far. They don't know the steps, they can't do it. But then it brings you back to I'm not good enough and I'm not deserving. And so there's these 6 personalities that are embodying you at some point. Some of them are stronger, some of them take over. They are coming from a wounded child. They're coming from a wounded place because they believe that what happened to them created this, that disappointment. I showed up, my dad didn't, therefore it must have been because of me. Like, how many times have something happened and then you personalize it and you say it must have been me? So a perfect example is a divorce. You know, your children are in the divorce and dad is no longer living with you, and then you have this setup where it must have been me. I must have done something. Dad doesn't live with mom anymore. It must have been me. I must not be lovable enough, or I must not, like, we don't have a big world vision of this because we're so little. Therefore, we personalize it. And when we start understanding the different structures, of which I'm going to go into in a moment, you then begin to understand how it is that we create what we create. And so I'm going to bring you to, I'm going to screen share again. So you have this oscillation that's occurring over here. You decide to become a creator and live the 4 core choices. So here we've been oscillating. You can also be stuck. You could be like a fence post and you never go anywhere, and you're always stuck. And you know, a fence post doesn't have a wheel on it, so and it's ironic because you could take the same ingredients that are inside a rocking chair and create a skateboard, if you put wheels on it. You can take a fence post that has wheels on it, and now you can have a gate that moves. And so we're looking for the fluidity of creation. How is it that we can't create fluidly like? Well, it's because we have a lot of stuck personalities that are buying the lie that nothing else is possible. And so we have to now take the next step. This is the journey to superconscious living that we started with. So you started as the pure creative spirit, and then you got entrapped into this individual limited perspective where you now see the world through that limitation, and everything is distorted, and your point of view creates your reality, and nobody knows how your reality is, because nobody knows that your reality is different than the other person's reality. And then you judge the other person and you project that judgment out there, and you project your fear onto other people, because you don't realize that it has everything to do with what you did when you were little. And so we're going to create from these new 4 core choices. And those are I choose to live the life I love. And Anna, if you could type this into the chat room, that would be great. So I choose to live the life I love. I choose to be a predominant creative force in my life. I choose health and vitality. And I choose to live my true nature on purpose. And when you come from these 4 core choices, you begin to unravel that which is stopping you. You start to have traction. And I share something a little bit later where I have something called traction to action. But first we need to understand what the recoding does and how it changes the resistance, because attachments and resistance create pain. Attachments create pain. Resistance create pain. So when we go into the recoding and you learn that removing the resistance changes that, you no longer have the memory of pain. We're going to be turning pain into wisdom. And when you do that, you begin to start finding this neutral place between these 2 ends. Like, we're talking tension. So you have tension here, which is really tight. You have to have current reality equals your desired reality. And there's this tension of story, this tension of I'm a victim, this tension of I'm not loved. These silences that have lived inside of you create massive tension in your body, and you can't move in fluidity if you are stuck or trapped in these points of view of I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve, I'm insignificant, I'm not capable, I have to be perfect. When you are trapped inside of that sabotage loop, then your tension is really, it has nowhere to go. When you enter the superconscious field and you begin to remove the resistance, you enter what I call the wizard's gate. And it's this neutral place where you are now a conscious creative being, and you're consciously creating your life. And we recode all the resistance out, and we follow through, turning thoughts into things, and you become superconscious, living your truth, and you get to have all of these new things now that have been in your way, and you create more from what you love instead of being in this victim personality. And so there's this threshold. And I could go into this whole other conversation about the hero's journey. And the hero's journey, there's this place where you have a threshold where you have to take a leap. And when you leap into the choice of creating consciously, you no longer are powerless. You are no longer this victim to circumstances, but you are now consciously creating from a powerful superconscious place, learning to choose to create a life you love, becoming a predominant. I have two thoughts. I love to say, being a deliberate creator, but it's a predominant creative force in your life. So you are deliberately creating, and you are choosing to become a predominant creative force in your life. And your life changes dynamically. It's extremely life-changing. So, taking on that journey. Are there any questions up until this point? You all excited? You like this? It's really something to condense it into a simplified term, because it can get extremely elaborated. I can elaborate on everything. And so finding a way to focus on what I'm saying so I can get my point across is incredible. All right, so I feel like the being stuck part is sort of like, okay, I will add a cushion to my rocker. Maybe I get a blanket too. And I love that, Amy. I love that. What you just said is that I'd rather stay in my negative vision. Like, I haven't shared the different structures. So there are 3 types of structures. That's a great segment. Thanks, Amy. Okay, so there are 3 structures. Structure number 1 is oscillating. That's the back and forth rocking chair. Number 2 is stuck. I think we all understand what being stuck is. And you can see it as like a fence post. Oops. So you're not moving. There's no direction. In fact, what's fascinating is you could be here and you try this and you try this and you try this and you try this, and no matter which way you go, you haven't moved. You've tried all these avenues, and no matter which way you go, you don't go anywhere, which is why you come to the conclusion that you're stuck. And then the third one is creative structure. The creative structure, which way do I go? I go this way. So the creative structure is where the fluidity is. It's where I like to use the example of a slinky. So when you have this 2-point tension where your problem is connected to the solution, And so no matter what I try to solve the problem with, it's always connected to the problem. So here's the solution. This doctor says if I do this, I'll get better. But I'm still connected to the problem, so it doesn't change the tension. This person says, eat this, go gluten-free, go, don't do dairy, don't do this, you know. You do these things, and now you're still connected to the problem. You might feel a little bit better, but you haven't solved anything because you're still connected to the problem. And so what happens is we have all these tensions that are holding on to that problem inside the ego, inside the lower frequency of what we'll call the problem reality. Your problem reality is that you're focusing on the problem. You're focusing on solving the problem. And so in order to change that, in order to change the dynamic of it so that there's movement, I like the slinky as an example because a slinky has movement. A slinky has a nudge here and a nudge here, and there's a suspended movement. So if you have a question, you ask, and if you focus on the end result, so if the beginning of the slinky is your ask and the end result is here, then you have all of this flexibility for things to show up for you. You're not in the problem. You're in the curiosity, you're in the gratitude, and you're in the wonderment. And when you come from these three, curiosity, gratitude, and wonderment, they spiral. So your end result is health and vitality. Your end result is having personal financial freedom, or whatever your end result is. You've connected your gratitude, your curiosity, and your wonderment, or your innocence. You've connected it through this expanded spiral. It's kind of like a maze versus a labyrinth. The slinky is your labyrinth, and now you're on a journey. And your journey is showing up in the world and being present. And as you create, it creates. And as you don't judge it, it continues to expand and create. And you recode it, and you're removing resistance, and there's nothing in the way for the thing that you're asking to show up with. It just shows up. And it can show up quickly. And if it doesn't show up quickly, or if you're in the conclusion of it, or if you're in the negative imprint or the negative vision of it, then you're inside the wrong structure. If you're doing affirmations inside the oscillating structure or the stuck structure, then there's no movement that's going to happen. There's no expansion. The I am cannot expand inside that. You're in the maze, which is a trap. So you're being held hostage, right? So we want to be in that slinky. I love the analogy of the slinky because it gives this fluidity, this flexibility. You can put one in your hand and you can play with it. I should put one on my desk. So before we go into the superconscious explanation and going into the recoding, I have a video that I would like you to watch that is going to really dynamically, seamlessly go into the next spot here. So I think you can see the excitement that I carry here because I know just how smooth a transition these two realities. In order to become your desired reality, there has to be a defining moment where you change your identity. And changing your identity doesn't mean a part of you is going to die. It's just defining it differently. And so these part personalities and main personalities and parts of you that are in resistance, when we change that, you are going to experience that shift. And that's where the ahas and the oh my God and I can't believe and that was that easy. And so that I would like to do with you. So let's watch. I love this video. It's with Bruce Lipton. Are you all familiar with Bruce Lipton? He is another conscious leader. He's coming at it from a scientific point of view, and we're here about learning how the brain can be rewired and recoded. You know, when synapses, when you have two wires that fire together, they can close the gap because there's nothing that's stopping them. It's not a dead end. And again, I like looking at the difference between a maze and a labyrinth. A maze is full of dead ends. I mean, I guess people call it the rat race, but a maze is nothing more than a dead end. You can go and then you can't get out. You have to go around. You have to find another way to get out. And no matter which way you go, you're still stuck. Whereas the labyrinth brings expansion. So this is a really eye-opening conversation that he is going to have, and I just love, I get chills when I watch this. So here, we're going to screenshot this sound. All right, here we go.
You the science of actually how the cells work, and you will have more knowledge than most doctors in the world today because they still believe in the genes. You are made out of 50 trillion cells, and the cells are the living entities. So you are a community, not a single person. Every cell in your body has minus voltage on the inside and positive voltage on the outside. Every live cell is a battery. Every cell has about 1.4 volts. 50 trillion cells in the body times 1.4 volts is 700 trillion volts of electricity in your body right now. And with training and meditation, you can focus this energy called chi, and you can use that energy for healing. So while you see yourself as a physical entity, the new physics, you are energy waves interacting with each other right now. All animals and all plants communicate with vibration. The gazelle doesn't have to go up to the lion and say, "Are you my friend?" Because at the distance, the energy could be felt and the gazelle will not go there because of bad vibes. If we, when we were young, were taught to be sensitive to the vibrations, we would not find ourselves in bad relationships and bad places. But we are usually told not to go by our feelings, but to listen to what people have to say. Language was designed to hide feelings. The point is, all organisms communicate by vibrations and know if they're in a good place or a bad place by reading the vibrations. We humans have that ability, but are not trained to use that ability. When we see people, like if I look at the audience or you see us, we see people as physical particles and machines. But that's an illusion, because what we are interacting waves. That's why one person can affect another person just by being in the field. And today, physics studies the vibration, not the physical. In quantum physics, we don't study the particles, we study the waves. And we study how the wave interference. All of the waves together is called the field. So you're made out of atoms, but you also are the field. You are connected to everything because you can't separate waves. Now I'm going to show you how your thoughts go out and affect your life on the outside. This is an older picture of a new technology called magnetoencephalograph, MEG. EEG, you put wires on your skin and read the brain activity. MEG, the probe does not even touch the head. You can read your brain activity outside of your head. It's not magic. Your thoughts are not contained in your head. As I talked about, people are not particles, they're waves. And waves become entangled with each other. The people that you get connected to, you are entangled with. And many people are familiar if you think about someone or talk about someone you haven't seen for years. And I say, "Oh, I haven't seen my friend John in 10 years. And the phone rings and it's John. Or a letter comes in the mail from John. It's like the placebo nocebo. When you think very positive thoughts of someone, they make an effort to get in touch with you. But it works both ways. If you have a negative thought about somebody, wherever they are, they will create negative talk about you. So it's very important to recognize your thoughts and your judgments are not just connected to you, they're connected to the people you talk about. So people know that if you hit the right frequency, you can cause a crystal goblet to explode. It's called harmonic resonance or constructive interference. You are like a tuning fork with your brain, and you're broadcasting frequencies of your thoughts. Which goblet is going to respond to your thoughts? The one that is harmonically resonant with your thoughts. If you live in fear, you're not going to activate the Dalai Lama, but you may get Scarface to show up. So when you are having thoughts, you are exciting and activating those things in the world that are connected to your thoughts. When a mugger is trying to pick out which person he's going to attack, of the different people walking down the street, which one do you think gets attacked? The one who is most afraid. Because the one who's most afraid will resonate, and that means that the mugger doesn't have to do anything, go boo, and everyone will give him everything. But while it works for individuals, it is very powerful when a whole group of people have the same thoughts. You can't make a war unless enough people are ready to make a war. I'm going to show a picture of mass action here, and it relates to in New York City, 1 year after 9/11. So this is September 11th, 2002, the 1-year anniversary of 9/11. What was everybody in New York thinking about that day? The winning number, 911, because we collectively create the reality. So when you look at yourself, you're not a single entity, but you are a community of 50 trillion cells. But it's important to understand the word community. Every cell is intelligent, but when they're in a community, they give up their personal intelligence and respond to the central voice. So that the community represents a thing, one thing called an organism. And in that community, that a cell must follow what the central voice is. And if the central voice says to die, the cells will die. So the central voice is the mind. And I will be talking about the nature of the two parts of the mind and why we have trouble sometimes controlling our life. So what I would talk about is the role of how this mind works. First, there are signals from the environment, the internal and external environment. The brain, the function of the brain is to perceive the signals and then interpret those signals and then send the information to the cells to control the behavior and the genetics. So the function of the brain is perception, and from that creates the mind. Now, we have heard of something called the placebo effect, right? The placebo effect is when you have a very positive thought that something can heal you, even if you don't know it, but it's a sugar pill, but you believe it's the real medicine, then you can heal yourself with that. So the pill didn't heal you, it was the thought that healed you. Statistics reveal that 1/3 of all medical healings, including surgery, are the result of the placebo effect. Now, the issue is that the placebo effect is when you have positive thinking. What about negative thinking? And this is what medicine does not tell you, is that there is negative thinking, and it's called the nocebo effect. And in the same power that positive thinking can heal you, negative thinking can kill you. They're both the same effect. One is more positive, one is more negative, but the effects are exactly the same on your health. One will heal you, and the other can make you sick. The point is that negative thinking can create all the effects of chemotherapy. Now think about this. If a doctor tells you you have a disease, or the doctor tells you you're going to die, and you believe the doctor because he's the professional, the belief will give you a disease and can cause you to die. In the United States, in the South, there's a religious group called the Baptist Fundamentalists. And this one group works themselves up into a state of ecstasy, religious ecstasy, and they believe God protects them. And so they will work with snakes, poisonous snakes like rattlesnakes, and they will even get bitten by the snake and nothing happens to them. Now look at this though. Some of them will drink strychnine in toxic doses, and when they're in that state of belief, it does not affect them. So if you can drink toxic poison, then why do we worry so much about the toxins or the food and in the air and all that? Because we have a belief that the toxins can kill us. But even though I know this, I will not drink strychnine. And why? Because my belief is not as strong as their belief. So if we were growing up and programmed with stronger beliefs, we would be more powerful than we are now.
Powerful. Very powerful. I share this to show how the field works with an empath and how the field works with the superconscious, and how being in the wizard's gate between the positive and negative is where the space can be loosely creating for you instead of all one way or all the other way. We have both positive and negative experiences. We are polarized. Our body is polarized. It's polarized in ourselves. We are inherently polarized. And so in order to bypass this polarized energy, you have to go to the field and find a new end result so that you can have a different reality. You have your current reality, you go up to the field, and then you come down, you have to have a different outcome. And so we're going to do that as I walk us through the superconscious field as a group. And so there's a lot of parts to this. It's extremely lengthy. So I'm going to only give an introduction to capture it so that you don't feel overwhelmed. You know, like I said, I could do a 3 or 4 or 5 day event on this. We're going to introduce the superconscious field. I'm going to explain to you this process and show how it teaches you to connect to a part of you called the superconscious that created all your memory and can treat emotion. It's not a trance. It's something you can do yourself, but it is more enjoyable with a coach supporting you through this. Always know you are in control and there is no danger, as you can block treatment at any time. However, first there is some education that I must go over to help you understand this. I do this once only, the first session. So to begin, you are made up of a main personality and then many other personality and aspects. When all aspects are working together, we can use this method to let go of any resistance that is stopping satisfaction in life. So in the beginning, I said we're all here to increase satisfaction and decrease pain, because resistance equals pain. Attachments equal pain. So we're looking to change that. So the superconscious field, as we just watched with Bruce Lipton, is an electromagnetic field. It is an electrical field and a magnetic field which intersects. It sends out waves of energy at the speed of light. This electric and magnetic field forms around any electrical charge. Both electrical and magnetic fields have two polarities, negative and positive, and both will cause any other charged object to be attracted or repelled. Simply put, the field is a region of influence. And did you remember what he said, that the brain is designed for perception, which then takes it to the mind? So we literally are training our brain to perceive things. And through that reality, through our environment, through our influences, we then have behaviors that come out of it through active experiences, through behavioral experiences. So inside this field is a matrix which connects to two or more points in space, usually via a force. The force is usually represented by ripples in the field as waves, as just mentioned. So the superconscious field has no emotions or feelings, only information, which I think is fabulous. So we do this through connecting to our superconscious memory, which is a memory that was present before you were born, and it has been passed down through your family. So when I say family, we're talking many, many generations. I can go back into the recode and I can go through 7, 20, 15 generations. I can heal through all these generations, especially with the family entanglements. So when you give me permission to connect to your superconscious, I can connect because at that superconscious level, we are one in that field. And when I connect to the superconscious field, I can access what aspects are causing resistance, and I can share commands to treat the emotion, the pain, or the belief, and leave the wisdom. This is because the superconscious is a field of information. I will draw out a diagram showing how, I could draw it out, but I think that the video is exceptional for how the field encapsulates the both the active experience and unconscious and conscious, and how we're all connected. That was one of the diagrams I did actually. So we have 3 different kinds of memories. We have the conception, birth to 4 years old, and now. So we have conception, birth to 0 to 4 years old, and now. And there's a timeline of memories. A superconscious memory is physiological and passed down through family. It is a field structure that informs our cells and DNAs how to act and what to turn on. This is memory number 1. As you can see, it comes before conception, and you will travel beyond the totality of your life. We also have an unconscious memory which communicates in feelings. It runs the body and easily is trained to interpret symbols through repetition. It is automatic complex tasks like driving a car or playing a sport. This is memory number 2. So the unconscious seeks balance and will do everything it can to have the past equal the future, to maintain its set of instructions that it has learned. This is to do or die. This is how important it is that the subconscious does its task brilliantly. No matter what, it's going to make sure that it is the past equals the future. Past equals future. And it's seeking balance to do that. It begins at the time of conception as you have unconsciously received messages in utero. And then finally we have a self-conscious memory that is also known as the ego. It is our thinking brain or conscious experience and is considered memory number 3. Its formation begins around age 4 years of age up to 7, where individuation begins. And I shared this in the superconscious journey. The ego lives in polarity. It also creates the oscillating structure, since it lives in duality, also known as polarity, as opposed to the unconscious, which seeks balance. These two are in opposition. The active experience is what we are experiencing in the moment. It is made up of both self-conscious and unconscious memories. And I showed that diagram earlier. One side is unconscious and the other side is conscious. And inside is the active experience. And the outside circle are the dormant memories. Here you can see where you have triggered and dormant memories. So who here, and a really good example of this, I just love this little tidbit, is who can remember your first grade teacher's name? This is what a dormant memory is. It's a memory. Who can remember where they were, when 9/11 happened, when you had 9/11? So you can remember where you were sitting. You might even remember what you were eating. You remember what TV you were watching it on. You remember who you were with. These are dormant memories that are just lying there. They're not needed until you ask a question, and then it gets triggered into an awareness. So unless somebody asks you something, there is no reason to know it. And that is what a dormant memory is. And memories from both unconscious and self-conscious get activated from these questions. These dormant memories can be triggered into an active experience. So the main personality starts forming at birth or sometimes before, and all memory of the main personality is stored in memory number 3, which is the self-conscious. This is who is making most of the decisions. However, parts are created through trauma or pain that disrupt the main personality and cause self-sabotage, i.e. pain. These parts can be in any of the 3 memory structures and can be awoken up at any time. If the pain was too great or if passed down from family, the parts can become amnesiac to the main personality. In fact, the main personality has no knowledge that something exists, and now there are part personalities. There's a split. It doesn't mean you're a split personality. It just means that you don't have all of the skills or the tools to handle a trauma, so you separate out so that part of you doesn't have to pay attention because it was too emotional for you. So these parts that are created through trauma or pain that disrupt the main personality and cause the self-sabotage, these parts can be in any of the 3 memory structures and can be awoken at any time. If the pain was too great, or if it was passed down and that amnesiac is there, the main personality will choose to not have any awareness around it. You see this with sexual abuse. You see this with people that don't remember things. You see this with something that may have happened in their childhood, but they don't want to know, or they don't remember, or they know something's there, but they don't know how, and they just don't have enough. They just have a feeling. They have a feeling that something is there. However, if you are an empath, you have to become conscientious about that feeling because it might not be yours. It might have been projected onto you from a parent. And so you are carrying these feelings that are triggered, but they don't necessarily mean that they're yours, even though you believe they're yours, which is why they can dissipate quickly inside the recoding, because a lot of them aren't yours, especially if you are an empath. And I say that with great impact because empaths have a way of not delineating what is the line of whose is whose. So in the main personality, without that knowledge that something exists, there's this part personalities that live both inside the active experience and in the dormant memories. And this is where inner conflict is created. The main personality is not the whole, even though it is inside the active experience. When there is pain wrapped around a part personality, an aspect, it can now be seen as trauma pain. This pain is what creates resistance. Our goal is to treat all parts and aspects so they can join the main personalities and share all information. We do this by removing the emotion of the memory and keeping the content, which allows the pain to turn to wisdom. So the advantages to this treatment, it's allowing this process to respect and desire all the parts to choose to let go of resistance. We do this by explaining, well, when you're in it, you'll see it. It's hard to, some parts of explaining this are difficult because you just need to experience it. Just know that all parts are listening. And not all parts want to hear it, and not all parts want to wake up to it. So I need to talk to all of the aspects and get permission to only treat those that are asking for treatment. So we're looking for the increased satisfaction, and we're looking to stop intrusions like a takeover. Any of you have the experience where you suddenly became someone or something else. You got angry, your anger took over, your anxiety took over. you were fine, then all of a sudden you were really angry or anxious, and you don't know what happened. It took over. And then afterwards you make the comment, I don't know what overcame me. So that's an example of a takeover. Or you stop losing time, where you're driving and all of a sudden you're at your destiny and you have no idea how you got there, and you lost time. Your mind went somewhere else and you're on autopilot driving, and all of a sudden you show up at your destination and you don't remember driving there. And to stop the main personality from hiding information, like I said, there are some parts that don't want treatment. And when that happens, we want to make sure that all aspects are part of the treatment team. So sometimes a part of you can wake up and feel like a part of you feels like the pain is too great. It's possible it was dormant and now it's awakened and says, you want me to go where? Or maybe the pain will re-traumatize the main personality. So it's important to note that all parts have positive intention, even if it doesn't appear or to be so. All resistance was created in positive intent. Or I want you to know no parts will die. When we do treatment, we are simply treating the emotion and keeping the wisdom. So if there is a belief or an issue stopping you from joining the treatment team and creating treatment, let's just put that up on display and treat that first so we can all work together. That way, no stored memories are flooding back with all the crap. And sometimes an inner child doesn't want to join the treatment team and is having a tantrum. We just treat the emotion. There is no loss of wisdom or knowledge, or understand that you have acquired. So sometimes that is the only reason it was created, and it doesn't want to die. So superconscious, we're just gonna, I'm talking to everyone superconscious now as I'm going through the basic. We're just gonna do all aspects and parts desired treatment, and it is in the highest and best good for every single aspect to have treatment. I say this because I'm talking to the part of you that's in resistance. And I know this because I can feel it. Oh, whoo-wee. Okay. It's a lot of information. So here we have it. I would like you to, I'm going to do this as a group recoding. There's a lot of processes that I can offer inside the recoding. And there's a lot of awareness that I have as to how to get there. I follow the energy in the group, and repetition is required. Based on these habits and these patterns, you have to hear this a lot in order for you to get past. It's like as I recode you, you shift. And as you shift, you're not going to be holding on to the same information. So then when you hear it again, it'll sink in a little deeper. And then I recode you and you hear it again differently. And as that resistance goes away, the information is going to settle differently. Amy just asked a question about the self-recode. Okay, doing a recode on yourself, is it just as effective as with another person? If doing it with a coach may be more fun. The answer is yes, yes, and yes. Yes, yes, and yes. Doing a recode yourself is great, can be very effective, and you have to be extremely solid in your foundation because you're taking the foundation away. You might kind of stumble and not know how to get out of it. And so in the beginning, I suggest staying with a coach. You can do simple things for yourself, but if you're going to go for a core belief that you have, like there's a lot of foundational processes to allow the success. If you aren't skilled at it, then you're just going to be shooting in the dark. So please don't do this at home. Please use a coach. Please use me. And I have something called the 7-minute experiment. And that is a one-on-one recoding with me. And I do something very special in this one that I don't do in this group. So if it's something that you would like to do with me to see how I work one-on-one, then it will give you another tool to use when we are in the groups. Let's see. This is getting busy. Lisa, when we watch the replay, are we getting a new and deeper effect with the recoding, or is it doing exactly what it did the first time, just picking up the left behind crumbs? That's a great question, Lisa. It actually does continue to do the recoding. It can take anywhere from a simple moment, a day, to 4 weeks for the recoding to complete itself. It has to do with how much resistance is in the subconscious. So if the subconscious is extremely resisting to what is being changed, remember that the treatment team will only work with those that want treatment. And so if there's a part of you that's not ready for treatment, doing treatment on a layer that starts to slough off, when you do it again and listen to it, and when you listen to it, then it's going to start bringing in all parts and tagging and treating the parts that weren't willing to have treatment. And so there's always a future part that is asking for treatment at a later time. I can confirm that you are a really good coach. Oh, thanks, Lisa. I have been working in the superconscious field for decades. And so here I am in the superconscious field, and it's like a symphony. I hear it as if it's in the room. I see it. I can tell you it is as loud and present as if a person was in the room talking to me. And so I have a direct connection with the field. I am very passionate about, is a good word for it. So that is all that I wanted to share. If you want to get a book just by itself without taking the class, you can do that too. Just message me and we can work that out. And if you're in one of my classes and you would like a book, then we can work that out too. There are options. There are a lot of options. I highly recommend it. And it's a good reminder when you see the title, You're Not Broken, it makes me laugh because a lot of people, when I say the name of the book, they go, oh, yes, I am. And I'll be like, no, you're not. And then I'll say it differently. And they're like, well, my thoughts are broken. And I'll be like, that's true. Your thoughts are broken, but they're not, because everything is polarized. You're just steeped in one polarized energy. If you were in the awareness of the opposite side, the dichotomy of it, then you're going to have a different experience. And so what I'm bringing you is a different experience so that you can see just how effective this is. It's really good. So let's see. Have a little piece of paper or something that you can write a number on so that you, like, I want you to all write down an end result that you would like, you know, something like, I choose to live the life I love, or I choose to be the predominant creative force in my life, or I choose to live my life of magic, or I choose health and vitality. Like, let's pick one. I'll put yours, write yours in the chat room, and I'll see which one resonates with everybody, because you're all in, we all have a very group energy here. So let's see what, I mean, it could be financial freedom. Everybody's going to have something that will be similar. Just one thing, Roseanne. When you can go generic, it covers more. If you stay focused on one thing, then it brings the contraction, and we're looking to expand. And so if you pick, I choose to be the predominant creative force of my life, it kind of covers everything. Does that make sense? So I like to go general, even though there are some things, like if you have a fear, if you want to overcome, you know, a fear of heights, or if you want to overcome a fear of you know, anything, just we can do it with a fear that you have. So I like this one. I choose to live my life without fear of moving forward. This is a good one because it's showing the dichotomy. You're focusing on the fear. I choose to live my life without fear is saying I choose to live my life with fear as the obstacle. Does that make sense? You're focusing on the negative. You have not given the expansion to creating it. So the opposite of fear for you is what? Because I'm going to give the example of the labyrinth and the maze. So the fear is inside the maze, and the labyrinth is the expansion. The spiral of life is expansion, and the contraction of fear is the maze. And so if you would like to stay small and play small, then you're going to be inside the maze, and you're going to be bumping into fear because that's your vibration. That's going to be your go-to. But in order to have the end result, we have to be able to go expand beyond that. We have to find the word that is on the opposite side of the coin, or the opposite side of the stick, if that makes sense. Healthy action. So inside healthy action is the judgment. So we don't want to judge the action, because the action literally is inspired action. So inspired action is going to create the path that's going to be in the spiral of that expansion. You see that? Do you see how that works? So I choose to take action to consciously live my truth. Fear can be fear of judgment or acceptance. So is the opposite of fear freedom. The opposite of fear, if fear is contraction, the opposite of fear is expansion. Because we're going to not name it. We're going to just be general. So maybe the opposite of fear is knowing. Again, expansion. Whew. You see what that all just brought up for everybody? That just brought up a lot of stress. Like I can feel the energetic stress of that. So I'm gonna give you another one here. So does that sum it up, Carol? I choose showing up. Because showing up is the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know, I woke up with a swollen lip this morning, and I just laughed, and I was like, okay, I'll look like I have Botox done today, you know? Like my bottom lip was swollen from, I think, an allergy to something that I ate. And I laughed because I'm like, I show up. So how are you going to show up? How you show up in the world is truly the gift that it's the only thing you have. You give permission to everyone how you show up. So if you show up in contraction and fear, you give permission for the next person to show up in contraction and fear. If you show up in expansion and love, you give permission for that person to show up in expansion and love. And Wayne Dyer did this so brilliantly. He would share his stories in Maui when people would come to him, and he'd bump into someone and they'd be like, "Oh man, I hate this island and blah blah blah, and this happened and that happened." And Wayne would meet them and be like, "Yeah, I know it can be so this and so that, and I know what you mean." And he would meet them where they're at, because that's them being seen in them showing up. And then someone would be like, "Oh, I just love this island. I love you. And he'd show up and he'd be like, "Oh, wonderful. I love swimming in the ocean." And he'd bring he would mirror that. And he would show up by being present with the person that he's showing up with. And so when you show up as the deliberate creative life force of who you truly are, then you give permission for the other person to show up how they would like to show up. And if you don't show up in your truth, in your showing upness, then they're going to be in their shame, they're going to be in their hiding, and they're going to be in their fear. But if you're fearless when you show up for them, then they have a moment where they might actually have the first fearless moment in their entire existence. Do you see how that works? Everyone knows that misery loves company, right? And so when you are looking for comfort, you know that if you show up happy, people are not going to like you. You know that misery loves comfort. And so you now have a trauma bonding moment with somebody that they get to have feeling good with you, because they get to share their story with your story, and you now get to live in the problem reality while they complain and suffer. But if you are truly choosing to live your path of deliberate creation and living a life you love, then you kind of have to show up, and you have to do this ditty in life that says, I am choosing to live in a creative structure. And so the chat room blew up. Oh my God, yummy. I choose to live my expansion. Showing up, I'm feeling that. Yes, lots of resistance to showing up. Wow, thank you for sharing that. Sometimes you don't have it. Yeah, Lisa, oh my God. I am, I, I just know how I have a quick bounce back. I have learned how to bounce back quickly because I don't like living in contraction. You saw the picture, you saw the before picture. Here, I don't have an option. This is my non-negotiable moment. I choose to live a life I love, not a choose I live in lack and trauma bonding and victimhood. So this woman, who I can say was me not long ago, has lived a life to prove her unhappiness. And she has a lot of people that can prove that unhappiness with her. So I can tell you that I want to cry every time I see that photo because I did reverse my age. I reversed it by a landslide, and whew, it's so powerful. You all have this within you, and part of this is the recoding. Part of this, so because you can choose to show up, but do you love showing up? Inside that showing up is a lot of judgment. There's a lot of judgment of how you show up. So we're going to just choose to love what shows up, because it's like going to your yoga mat. Every day you go to your yoga mat and you are in the, this is what shows up today. I can't move my shoulder, or my hip doesn't open up, or I'm tight in my muscles, or I'm tired, or I don't want, or I don't have time, or all I can do is breathe. All I can do is, lay on the ground. I have back pain today. I don't want to. I used to cry every time I'd show up on my mat, because I would have doctors like judge me, like, why do you cry when you do that? Why do you cry when you're out? Because what's inside of you must come out. So what's inside of you must come out. And if it's not going to come out through crying, then it's got to change from recoding so that you don't have to go through the trauma of the change. Okay, so we're going to have an end result here. So let's walk. We're going to have a door. Just visualize a door. And the door says, I love showing up. I love showing up. Even when I don't, but I love showing up. Open the door, and there's going to be this beam of sunlight that just comes and it hits you in your heart, and you're just going to be in this warmth. It's going to overcome you. Just want you to feel that strength of being overcome. When in your life have you shown up? You showed up for your birthday, or you showed up for a test, or you showed up for birth of a child. You showed up. So remember what it's like to show up. You just showed up, warts and all, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and there is no judgment on it. You're just letting the sunshine feed you and nourish you, knowing that how you are in this moment is perfect as it is. Absolutely perfect as it is. You are in the moment, and you are accepting this moment in gratitude, and you are accepting this moment in bliss and in total innocence and in total gratitude. It's kind of like the I am that I am that I am. I am showing up as I am. You feel the breathing space in that? Just relaxes you. I am showing up. I'm not afraid of what someone's going to say to me. Not afraid of what someone's not going to say to me. I'm not afraid of needing to be seen or not seen. I'm just showing up. I define myself in my own sovereignty, and I'm showing up in my own light, in my own dark, Acknowledge what is so what is can be okay. I am okay. That's basically what showing up is. I am okay. I can feel just this gravity pulling you down and relaxing you. I am relaxed. I am calm. I am 100% satisfied in showing up. Are you all there? So I would like you to close that door and step back to your current reality where you are in fear and you are contracted and you are resisting the showing up because of all of the reasons that you have. And I'd like you to give a number from 1 to 10, 10 being really, really, really hard to show up, and 1 being it's easy to show up. And I'd like you to put in the chat room what that number is, where you are now versus where you just were, your current reality. 7, 5, 10, 8, 7, 10, 10, 8. So lots of resistance. I see that. Okay. Well, I have permission to connect to your superconscious. Everybody just give a yes or a thumbs up. Okay. Superconscious, are you there? Superconscious, can you see the relationship to the stress that they have for showing up in their life? Do you see the resistance they have to maintaining the pain of showing up? Please tag and treat all aspects with a massive change history in relationship to the stress. Superconscious, do you see the heart energy, the heart system? You see the heart pain, the broken energy, the fragmented pain of what showing up means. Please tag and treat all aspects, all part personalities, all trauma personalities that are ready for treatment. We're going to treat all those that are ready for treatment, non-negotiable, with a massive change history and everything after that. Please and thank you. Just allow it to melt like ice on a hot summer's day. See the ice melting? Just allow this to slough off. Just allow the resistance to go down. Superconscious, do you see? Okay, you see the original event. I would like you to all grow yourself young. Grow yourself to 4 years old. Grow yourself to 1 year old. I want you to stand in your 1-year-old superconscious. See your 1-year-old. She or he knows what superconscious is. I am worthy. I am deserving. I am important in that I belong here. I matter. Superconscious, do you see the 1-year-old has the ability to show up? We're looking for increased satisfaction and decreased pain. And the 1-year-old knows how to show up by screaming bloody murder when it needs to eat. And he or she needs food or a diaper change or sleep. You have no issues with showing up. There is not even a blip. So let's tag and treat all aspects between your 1-year-old, your 4-year-old, with disappointment. Anywhere you have the superconscious, do you see the storyline of disappointment? Superconscious, do you see where accessing your superconscious got limited as you were marinated and steeped in other people's projections? Do you see that? Superconscious. Please do a massive change history on all aspects of disappointment. We're going to treat and tag all aspects of shame, and we're going to annihilate with a massive change history anywhere that shame has been your go-to for showing up. Just keep breathing into this. These are really intense or big energies that are playing right now. We're looking for increased satisfaction and decreased pain, superconscious. You see the part personalities that are excited about showing up, and do you see the part personalities that are afraid to show up? Do you see the inner conflict, the mixed messages? Let's do a treatment. Let's tag and treat all part personalities and mixed messages with a massive change history with this inner conflict, please and thank you. We care for you. We love you. All parts are required for treatment at this time. Non-negotiable. We're going to let go of the story. Superconscious, do you see the original event? Do you see how it's not theirs? Do you see how it's someone else's projected onto you? So everywhere you have taken on someone else's story to align and agree with them, or resist and defend with them, let's do a massive change history on that, please and thank you. Keep seeing it sloughing away, melting away like on a hot summer's day. Allowing increased satisfaction. We're going to turn the emotion pain into wisdom. So all emotion where you have pain, we're going to turn it to wisdom. Please and thank you. Your 4-year-old now is in the superconscious. All right. Superconscious, do you see where the entanglement of trust comes in? I don't trust. You see the story of I don't trust. I don't trust my mom. I don't trust my dad. I don't trust. Superconscious, please treat all aspects where there's separation from your inner being out of alignment with who you are and showing up, so that you have this innate ability to show up and to have the faith and the patience that as you show up, it's divinely inspired, divinely guided. Every step is out of inspired action. Please and thank you. Okay, superconscious, can you please treat the solar plexus, the point of power, where they give their power away, where you have given your power away, where you've made something significant outside of you. Please tag and treat all aspects of making anything outside of yourself more significant than you. Please and thank you. Okay, so I'm going to check in with you. In the chat room, I want you to put your first number, and then I'd like you to put where your now number is, where the resistance is going down. Five to 2, 10 to 3, 10 to 6, 7 to 2, 8 to 6, 6 to 2, 7 to 2. So let's go back into this. Superconscious, do you see the resistance? We're looking to go down to 0. We're treating all aspects that are in resistance. We care for all parts. We want the main personality to take over and have an active experience where it is loving showing up in life. regardless to what shows up. It's called resilience. Superconscious, can you treat all part personalities where there is 100% resistance and resilience? We're looking to change resilience to 0. The focus is on letting go. Superconscious, just let it go. Just letting it go. As I let go, I flow in my life. As I let go, I show up. As I let go, the magic of me shows up. As I let go of my fear, the joy of me shows up. Retreating all emotion, pain turns to wisdom. Superconscious, continue to help them, creating a 0 resistance. Okay. Please ground the memories 1, 2, and 3 and tandem memories into the universal matrix. We're looking for increased satisfaction, decreased pain. So continue to let that slough off. If your numbers have gone down to 0, put your first number and your last number and see if they've continued to go down. 7 is 0. 5 to 0. 10 to 2.5. Yay. 10 to 0, 7 to 1. Great. So now let's check in with the fear that you had. Check in with the resistance that you had. Check in with what you had before. Can you find it? Can you feel it? Can you see energetically? Is it in your face like it was before? So Carol, when you talked about the fear of moving forward, can you see how has it shifted for you? Eight to 2. Is there anybody here that would like to share an experience that they feel is worthy of sharing with the group? That you feel that you would like to, that's compelling you to share? Just raise your hand. And lots more yawning, the second part going back in. So quiet. Does anyone want to share anything? It was awesome. I could see flickers of memories and experiences being processed. I can unmute somebody if they would like to share. Feels so peaceful and calm, right, Roseanne? It's life-changing. It's this thing that has been debilitating you for so long, and then in a heartbeat, it's gone. This is exactly what I needed to do today. Did not even plan this. Aw, thanks. Lori, what would you like to share?
It was interesting that betrayal came up. I went back into childhood. So I kind of had to look at that and let that go. And it was kind of hand in hand with the fear. It's just, it was almost like an expectation that the betrayal was going to come along with it. So it kind of went hand in hand. But the fun part was when I got down to 1 year old, it was like, oh, hey, super conscious. And it was like, hey, girl. So I know there was that connection. And it lessened quite a bit when I went to the 4 year old. So I just then, through my connection as I am now with superconscious, is like, what is the value of this resistance? Because it was really, really, really slow coming down, and it was just there. And it's like, is this going to be any kind of a part of contribution to my life as I step forward? And it's like, no. And it's like, okay, now it's time. So then at that point, it was just like that value was almost null and void. It wasn't going to matter. And it was just almost like a timing thing that it stepped in. It was like, okay, now is the time because the contribution is gone. It had value. I knew it had value because it was still there. But it feels like there's a shift in focus to looking now towards the contribution of showing up, whatever that looks like, because I don't recognize, there's like not even a knowing of what showing up would look like for me. But as a contribution, now's the time.
It is, and when you aren't in the judgment of what shows up, it allows you to create your life. It's almost like the precursor to living the life you love. You have to show up and be part of it. I spent so much of my life being disassociated that I didn't have what it took to. It's like when you're in that place of lack, there is no step that you can take that's going to fulfill you in any way. And so, in order to get into a creative structure, not focusing on the problem, but being in the contraction or in this debilitated state, you cannot move forward because you don't have the steps. And showing up, you can't show up because you don't have you don't have the steps. You don't know how to fill yourself up. You don't know how. And so it's very, very profound because you just dynamically experienced it. We're all having the same calmness effect. Every single one of us here is having some kind of resistance that was removed as a group recoding. Thank you, Lori. So Carol asked, can I trust the lightness and improvement? Yes, it's gone. Will another part of you need treatment? It's possible. What you have now is a flavor that you have given the main personality to receive. I can trust this. I just recoded it. I ask as a group, and this group is asking for that trust piece. And trust is nothing more than aligning to your inner self. Trust is about aligning. It's about removing the separation from your inner world, the inner self. And so if you are disconnected and disassociated or separated from your inner self, you cannot guide or be guided because you're not there. And then if you want to trust it, well, you can't trust it because you're not present. And you can't be present because you've removed yourself because of the fear. And so it all is orchestrated together. It truly is. So if you would like to have more of this, if you would like to work with me, I have it available one-on-one if you would like to do it. The 7-minute experiment, which is so cool, I use a different modality. I have a tool that I'll be using that I don't do in the groups yet. I may bring it in, and it will be part of your process, and it's a one-time, and you can come and have 45 minutes with me. It's $50. It's a great chance to see how I work one-on-one. You have a feeling of how I work with groups, and so if you would prefer to work with me one-on-one, you'll know from the 7-minute experiment. If you can be in the Facebook page that is the Emotional Freedom, you'll get updated information. And what I shared today was just the tip of the iceberg to begin having a lot more faith in you, a lot more faith in the increased satisfaction, and a lot more faith in the decreasing pain. And when you have a lot of pain, sometimes you can't see anything past the experience that you're having, if that makes sense. I recommend joining the Facebook group and watching this replay. You can listen to the recoding again and see if it goes in a different layer. Hope to see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.